Welcome to today's screencast. I'm going to be showing you how to accomplish the next assignment related to Buddha in the Attic, which is reading Chapter 5 of The Children. For this assignment, it's only pages 61 through 70, and you're going to be practicing writing good paragraphs using the variety of sentences that we already discussed in the good essay writing notes. So before I move on, I just want to point out a few things to you. Okay? You will need a book for this assignment, and you also will have needed to have submitted your good essay notes on Canvas. Here's what your Canvas page looks like if you haven't turned in your good essay writing notes yet. You will have this block that doesn't allow you to click on today's assignment. That's because I need you to have good essay writing notes first. If you haven't done this, you need to watch the screencast, get the notes, and submit. If you have done this, or you've done most of it and haven't completed it yet, you need to complete it or simply submit right here, which will unlock these two opportunities. So, moving on. Back to what we are getting to here. So, what we are attempting to do here, if you refer to the objective, is write paragraphs that capture clear topic sentences, supporting sentences, and wrapping up sentences so that we can practice organized writing. Remember, topic sentences are sentences that sort of introduce the reader to what the entire paragraph is going to be about. So just from reading your topic sentence, I should know what the rest of your paragraph is going to be explaining. Supporting sentences are sort of going into more detail, being more specific, and providing evidence for what you said in the topic sentence. And your wrapping up sentence is sort of like the conclusion of your paragraph, where you're sort of going over the things that you've already talked about, but you never want to repeat things word for word, or else that creates essay writing that doesn't have as much flow. It's a little bit more repetitive, which you want to try to avoid. If this still isn't making sense, hopefully by the end of this screencast, you'll be like, I know what's going on, Sherman. You the bomb. So here's what I want you to look at, okay? We're going to be doing a few separate things here. We're going to be looking at questions that we need to answer before we read. We're going to be gathering evidence so that we can help ourselves answer that question. And then eventually here, what I've blocked out is the section where you're actually writing out your response using the three different types of sentences. So here's what we need to do first. This is the example that I want you to copy into your notes, and then you're going to be practicing doing two of these on your own. So, what were the conditions of the places where these children grew up? In order to know about this, we need to read. So right now, what I want you to do is the following. Pause the screencast and read pages 61 and 62. Once you've done this, I want you to go back to the screencast right here and play. Remember, you are thinking, what were the conditions of the places where the children grew up? Okay, now that you have read pages 61 and 62, I want to show you evidence that I pulled to help me answer this question. So, this is what you're going to be doing below, so make sure you're paying close attention to this. For the evidence section, we're identifying evidence that the author uses that supports your analysis of the topic. In this case, I pulled out evidence that helps me understand what the conditions were like of the places where the children grew up. Okay? So, there are two separate things that you need to answer. Your source is simply the page number. Give me 1 second. I'm doing a screencast. It's all right. As long as you're quiet, you can come in. Thanks. Sorry for the interruption, y'all. So, for the source, if you refer over here, you're writing the page number where you found the evidence. And for evidence, you are typing out the quote from the story. So on page 61 in the book, the first sentence is, "We laid them down gently in ditches and furrows and wicker baskets beneath the trees." This is something that helped me realize that the children weren't really growing up in the best conditions, okay? They were being sort of just laid down in ditches, outside. This sounds like, they don't necessarily live in nice homes, okay? Another thing I pulled out was related to sort of more the parent conditions that they grew up with. So for source number 2, this was also on page 61, I pulled out the quote that says, "We sometimes tied them to chairs," which is what the women said they did to the children when they were being rambunctious or a little bit rowdy. The last piece of evidence I pulled out was from page 62. Okay? This was the women talking about the children, but it says they slept with us at night like puppies on wooden boards covered with hay. So that doesn't sound like they're living in the most comfortable conditions. So all of this is helping me realize a lot about what's going on in the reading. So here's what I want to show you now: the writing that I came up with to support all of this. Okay. So your written response. Once you have this evidence from the top, you're able to do the following. Write an answer to the question. So this is, okay, I've pulled out all this evidence. Now I need to write something that sort of captures all the ideas that I found. So for me, it looked like this. The children grew up in very dirty or unsanitary conditions, and some of the children received harsh consequences when they acted up. This is capturing generally the ideas that I've pulled with my evidence. We laid them down gently in ditches. They slept with us on wood boards covered with hay. That's how I came up with this piece. Also, where did I get this piece from? Harsh consequences? Well, they were tied to chairs. That sounds pretty rough. So that's something that I was able to capture in one sentence. And notice, this is my topic sentence. This is my general answer. I've highlighted it in yellow. Okay? Next, I need supporting sentences. Evidence from the story that supports what I said in my topic sentence. Basically like, hey, here's how I know that what I just said is right. So, there are two different ways that I introduce this. The first way is by saying, for example, the author states, and then quoting word for word what I found. Okay? So this would be an example of integrating a quote from the story. If you're going to do this, you need to have quotation marks around it, or else you are not giving credit to the source where it came from. Okay? So this was something that backed up the unsanitary conditions piece of my topic sentence. Next, I said, when children were acting wild, they were sometimes tied to chairs, which is me sort of putting into my own words this. Okay? So both of these sentences are supporting what I said in my topic sentence. Supporting sentences. Lastly, I have included a wrapping up sentence, my conclusion sentence. In conclusion, these examples from the story prove that is my way of introducing that what I have said backs up my point. That children grew up with harsh circumstances both in the physical space and by receiving punishments from parents. So what I've done here is said similar things to what I said at the beginning, only using different language. Instead of saying very dirty or unsanitary conditions, I said harsh circumstances. Instead of saying harsh consequences, I simply said punishments. Okay? So, this is what a good paragraph looks like. A very clear beginning topic sentence, which you will need to highlight in yellow when you write your own. Very clear supporting sentences that back up what you said in the topic sentence, which you should highlight in red when you write your own. And then finally, a wrapping up or transition sentence. In this case, it's more of a wrapping up sentence because we're simply concluding what we already said. That is what we're going to highlight in green. So now that you have this in your notes, which I do want you to copy if you haven't already, you're able to complete the next two. Okay, so this should look very similar to what we just saw up top. You are choosing for this table and for this table one and only one question. So in total, you're doing two of these questions, one for this table, one for this table. Okay? So if you choose to answer this question using the paragraph format that I just showed, you would highlight it in yellow using this text feature. Highlight yellow. So that way I know that the evidence that you're using from the story to support this answer is related to this answer. And then ultimately, once you have your evidence pulled out, you are writing your responses out. Okay? I have specifically picked these questions so that you have a ton of different evidence to help support what you're saying. All of the evidence to help answer these questions can be found on pages 61 through 70. We're going to be doing this today, tomorrow, and Friday. However, we're going to have an additional assignment due on Friday, meaning you're going to have to do this one and then something just like it for pages 70 to 79. I hope this was helpful, and if you have any questions, as always, you need to ask me, whether I'm in the room or not. You can hit me up on Canvas, talk to me when I am in class. That's all, folks. I hope this was helpful, and this is Sherman signing off.